Thank you so much for all your requests for different bread recipes. This time, zut la! Ooh la la! Très bien! It's a French baguette. I am obsessed with bread. There's nothing quite like getting that perfect loaf. I spent 8 years trying to perfect the perfect baguette. You don't have to do that though. The thing that's really interesting about bread is that each person makes it slightly different. You get a chance to experiment and find the bread you like. And baguettes is a great way to do it. So with this process, what you're trying to achieve is a sour-ish taste, balanced with that wonderful fresh bread flavour. And to do that, this is what you'll need. 600 grams of strong bread flour. I can't stress enough how important it is to get the best flour you can afford for this. The better the flour, the better your baguette will be. 10 grams of salt, 200 ml of water, and an extra 100 ml of warm water. And you'll also need 2 different types of yeast. One, a leaven, which is a starter mixed with water and flour, a cup of each, and left to bubble and get all frothy. And 2, a poolish, which is easy bake yeast, added to a cup of flour and water. Now I've had to do the leaven earlier because as it's wild yeast, it will take a while to get bubbly. What you do is you mix 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of water, and 1 cup of your starter. Do that the night before, possibly early in the morning, and you want to make your poolish just before you're ready to make your baguettes. 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of water, into a bowl with a whisk. Take your 10 grams of easy bake yeast and add it to the flour and the water and let it start doing its thing. That'll happen very quickly. So in the meantime, start combining some of your other ingredients. Take your flour, whack it, ooh, missed. Add your leaven. If you want to test to see if it's ready, take a teaspoon of it and drop it in some water. If it floats, it's ready to go in. Pop that into the flour. That's all good. Very, very dry. Then, add your 200 ml of water. Here we go, it's starting to get a bit more sticky now. You'll notice I'm not kneading this. Actually, there's very little kneading to be done. And I'll show you why a bit later on. As the flour absorbs all the water, it's actually quite dry. It's almost like a crumbly pastry at the moment. That's a good thing, because we're going to be adding more liquid. We'll have a lovely couple of French baguettes to sit in the sun and drink some red wine with. Beautiful. Right, as we've been bringing that together, you'll notice that the poolish has really started going bubbly. Take it, bowl off, and just bash it onto the dough that you've been working, like so. Now work that into the dough. The wild yeast is more delicate than the easy bake yeast. And if you whack them in together, the easy bake yeast sort of takes over and doesn't let the wild yeast do its thing. Now you might be wondering, why is he banging on about the water so much? It's because you're aiming for about a 60% hydration rate. What's that, you say? Roughly speaking, you're saying if you've got a kilogram of flour, you'll want 600 ml of water. And I wouldn't get too overly hung up about it. Anywhere between 50 and 60% will be fine. What we're going to do is we're going to leave that for its first proof. Now you probably noticed that I haven't added the salt yet. Now this is a slow process. You'll need to prove this several times. And this is just the first proof. If we add the salt at the start, the gluten in the bread will start disintegrating, and by the time you get to bake it, it'll be a big mush. Grab yourself a tea towel. I'm going to leave it at room temperature, so I'll only need to leave it here for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Ta-da! I'll show you what this is for later. That has doubled in size. What I've got here is 100 ml of water. Teaspoon, and my 10 grams of salt. Add the salt to the water. Give it a good stir. Creating a salty solution for your bread. Simply add this salt solution to our dough. Get your fingers stuck in there, look at that. It's going to feel really weird for a while that dough absorbs the water. Salt has a way of killing yeast, especially wild yeast. So what we wanted to do is give it a chance to really develop in the bread before we put the salt in. Squidge, 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 squidge. That's normal, don't worry. It's like weird strings. Ooh. Now mix it for about 10 minutes. I actually worked in a French bakery when I was a teenager. Who is this silly Englishman? And I loved the smell of this stuff. The way the texture was a bit weird and gooey. After about 10 minutes, it'll start to look like that. See? Now, the next process is pretty simple. I'm going to leave mine at room temperature. And every 20 minutes, I'm going to come back, and I'm not going to knead it. I'm going to grab hold of the bottom of the dough, and I'm going to turn it over. And then I'm going to leave it again. 20 minutes. I'm going to do that about 4 or 5 times. Then we'll have our baguette dough. Ready to make into baguettes.
C'était là. Ouh là là. Mon pantalon.
Right, that's been proving now for the last 4 hours. Wait, look at the size of that. It's really fantastic. It's gone elastic, it's gone bubbly, it smells, really sort of complex. The next thing to do is to start shaping our baguettes. And just tease your dough out onto the table. There we go, look at that. Use your scraper, cut this into 4. So next, take some flour, whack it on the table. When you put a piece of dough onto the flour, where the flour is touching the dough, that's going to be the outside of the baguette. If you don't have tension in the outside of your baguette, it won't have that wonderful crust when you slice it and it rises in the oven. Take your outside and you fold it into the middle, like so. And then we'll stretch it out a bit, like that. Then fold it from the top to the bottom, like so. Now take your hands and push in and fold. That's your first level of tensioning. Okay? Boom into the middle, boom into the middle, fold over the top, fold in again. There we go. Okay, so after you've done the first bit of tensioning, roll it and tuck your fingers underneath to add that extra bit of tension on the dough. I love the way this stuff feels at this stage. It's like soft and silky and full of bubbles. We're just going to roll them out there. Take your hands and put them at this angle in a little bit of a tapered end. Okay, that's looking like a pretty good baguette. Now, the shaping process is actually quite complicated. I found a cheat though. And it's this. This is a piece of corrugated steel for shaping my baguettes. With the added bonus that once they're shaped and they've had their final proof, you just stick the whole thing in the oven and it bakes in that. Perfect. I love a shortcut. Now you don't have to use a corrugated steel tray. You can just use a flat baking tray. Your baguette will have a flat bottom, but who cares, eh? That's something to work on. You take your baguette, you plop it on your baking tray, allow a little bit of room on either side because it's going to prove again. There's our baguettes sat on their tray. We need to score them. Every good baguette has scoring down it. Did you know that actually the scoring can be used to identify the maker of the bread? That's true. It's a little factoid for you. Be confident. One. Little bit of semolina flour for that extra rustic look. Then we get ourselves Nice big plastic bag. You can find the end. I can never find the end of these things. Can't get into that one. Hello. And make sure it doesn't touch the bread. Brilliant. Now we're going to leave that for about 20 minutes to do their final proof. In the meantime, we're going to sort the oven out. It needs to be on the hottest you can get it, usually around 220 degrees, and they need to bake for about 25 minutes. I've also put a tray full of water in the oven at the bottom with a cloth in it to create lots of steam. Now baguettes really need steam when they're baking. They should have proved up nicely, looking something like this. Ready to go in the oven for their bake. Hey, and here we have it. Oh, smells so French. Crusty on the outside, soft and fluffy inside. You can have it with a meal. You can have it on its own with some butter. Maybe make some sandwiches out of it. Whatever you do, enjoy it. Yum.